I was a fanboy until the Hotshot Rockstar kissed me on stage, publicly. The kiss lasted 4 seconds. I counted them in my racing heartbeat as Jackson Hayes, the Jackson Hayes, pressed his lips against mine in front of 18,000 screaming fans. 1 second, shock. 2 seconds, disbelief. 3 seconds, euphoria. 4 seconds, darkness. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on a leather couch in what appeared to be a dressing room, the muffled roar of the crowd still audible through the walls. My first thought wasn't about where I was, but rather, did I actually just kiss Jackson Hayes on stage? Or was that the most vivid dream of my life? A heated argument filtered through the thin walls. "I don't care about the contract," Jackson's voice, unmistakable even in anger. "For once, I wasn't pretending on stage. Do you understand? For once, it was real." I sat up too quickly, my head spinning as reality crashed down around me. It hadn't been a dream, and now my life would never be the same. "You have 53,000 followers now, Ben. 53,000! That's more than most micro-influencers," Milo declared, flopping dramatically onto my bed. "And none of them know it's you." I didn't look up from my laptop, where I was analyzing Jackson Hayes' latest release, breaking down the chord progressions and lyrical motifs from my anonymous fan account, @JacksonHarmony. "That's the point, Milo. Nobody knows it's me, especially not my parents." Milo Rodriguez, my roommate, best friend, and one of Brooklyn's rising drag performers, rolled his eyes. "Senator and Mrs. Whitaker would straight up implode if they knew their perfect son ran the internet's most respected Jackson Hayes fan site. Or that you're gay. Or that you write music that's actually better than half the stuff on the radio." "Which is exactly why they can never find out," I replied, finally looking up. "My dad's whole campaign is built on family values, remember?" Milo stood up, adjusting his sequined crop top. "Family values is code for homophobia, and we both know it. When are you going to stop hiding? You've got talent, Ben. Real talent. Those songs in your journal deserve to be heard." I closed my laptop. I have stage fright so crippling I nearly passed out during my 5th grade recorder recital, even if I wanted to perform. I couldn't. "You're performing every day," Milo said, heading for the door. "Just not as yourself. I've got a spot at Velvet Underground tomorrow night. There's an open mic before my drag set. Just think about it." After Milo left, I returned to my analysis, but a notification distracted me. A direct message from one of my most reliable sources in the Jackson Hayes fan community. "Hayes Whisperer, have you heard about the unreleased track? The one about forbidden love that got scrapped by the label? Word is, he fought hard to keep it on the album." My heart raced. This was exactly the kind of insider information my followers craved. I quickly responded. "JacksonHarmony. No? Details? Any clips?" Hayes Whisperer. "No clips, but my cousin works at the studio. Said it was the most raw thing JH ever recorded. Called Echo Chambers. About loving someone you're not supposed to. Label said it was too revealing and killed it." I sat back, mind racing. Jackson Hayes, the rock sensation who had dominated charts for the past 3 years, had always been publicly ambiguous about his sexuality. The tabloids linked him with various starlets, but I had analyzed every interview, every lyric, and had my suspicions. This unreleased song could confirm what I had long believed, that the artist who had unknowingly helped me accept my own sexuality might understand more than anyone realized. When Jackson Hayes announced a surprise acoustic set at Bergman University's Spring Festival, my university, it felt like destiny. The announcement came with an unusual promise. Attendees could request any song during the intimate performance, even unreleased ones. I emptied my savings account, money earmarked for summer tuition, and purchased a VIP pass that included a meet and greet. I told my parents I was paying for a prestigious internship. It wasn't entirely a lie. Meeting Jackson Hayes could be career-defining for a music journalist or critic, which was the acceptable career path my parents believed I was pursuing. The night of the meet and greet arrived with a flurry of anxiety. I stood in line, clutching my VIP laminate, rehearsing what I would say when I finally met the man whose music had been my lifeline. But when my moment came, when I stood face to face with Jackson Hayes' piercing blue eyes and crooked smile, every practiced word evaporated. I stammered, barely audible. Jackson smiled, patient and kind. Hey there, what's your name? Ben, I managed. I just... thank you for saving my life. The words hung between us, raw and unplanned. Jackson's expression shifted, something unreadable flickering across his features. He held my gaze a beat longer than normal, his hand still gripping mine in our interrupted handshake. Then, security was ushering me along. The moment shattered. But as I walked away, I felt Jackson's eyes following me, and when I glanced back, the rockstar was indeed staring after me, ignoring the next fan in line. I lingered backstage, unable to leave even though my brief moment with Jackson was over. As crew members adjusted the stage lighting, I noticed Jackson glancing in my direction repeatedly while pretending to tune his guitar. When our eyes met again, Jackson's fingers fumbled on the strings. During the soundcheck, Jackson began playing an unfamiliar melody. I realized with a start that Jackson was improvising something new, his gaze occasionally finding me in the nearly empty venue. I pulled out a small napkin I had in my pocket, automatically analyzing the chord progression. When Jackson finally left the stage, a crew member approached me. "Mr. Hayes asked me to give you this," she said, handing me a folded note. Inside was a backstage pass and hastily scribbled words. "The melody I just played. What do you think? I'd love your analysis. J." The concert itself was electric. Jackson performed his hits with an intimacy that made the university auditorium feel like someone's living room. When the moment came for requests, I raised the sign amongst the crowd I'd made, Echo Chambers. Jackson's fingers froze on his guitar strings mid-chord. His eyes scanned the crowd until they locked with mine. Recognition, shock, and something like fear crossed his face before settling into resolution. "Well," Jackson said into the microphone, his voice slightly shaky, "this is a first. Someone's requesting a song that was never released." He strummed a tentative chord. "Bring him up here," Jackson said, pointing directly at me. "I want to know how he knows this song." Suddenly, I found myself being guided onto the stage, my legs barely supporting me as I stood beside my idol. Jackson leaned away from the microphone to whisper, "How do you know about this song?" But when Jackson pulled back, the microphone caught my whispered response. "Your music helped me accept who I am when no one else would." The audience fell silent. Jackson stared at me for a long moment before turning back to his guitar. He began playing a haunting melody that no one in the audience had heard before. No one except me. "This is called Echo Chambers," Jackson announced, his eyes never leaving my face. "It's about loving someone when the world says you shouldn't." The lyrics flowed like a confession. Jackson sang, and through it all, he maintained such intense eye contact with me that the rest of the audience seemed to fade away. It happened during the final chorus. Later, neither could say who moved first. One moment, we were two separate people, and the next, Jackson's lips were on mine. The guitar crushed between us, the audience's collective gasp like a gust of wind. 4 seconds later, my world went black. Hashtag Ben Passed Out was trending worldwide. 15 million views in less than 3 hours. Every angle of the kiss, the feint, the chaos that followed. I watched the clip on my phone from the sanctuary of Jackson's tour bus, feeling simultaneously like the luckiest and unluckiest person alive. "My father's holding a press conference right now," I said numbly, showing Jackson the notification on my phone. "He's going to disown me. On national television." Jackson sat beside me, our shoulders touching. "I'm so sorry, Ben. I never meant to—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't apologize for the only honest moment I've ever had in public." Jackson's manager had been apologetic. The label was threatening to sue as conservative groups were calling for boycotts, and worst of all, internet sleuths had connected me to my anonymous fan account, exposing years of my private thoughts and theories about Jackson's music and sexuality. "They're saying you've been stalking me," Jackson said quietly. "But that's not true, is it? You're at Jackson Harmony." My head snapped up. "You know about my account?" A small smile tugged at Jackson's lips. "Knew about it? Ben, I've been following it anonymously for over a year." Before I could process this revelation, my phone buzzed with an email from Bergman University. My scholarship had been revoked due to conduct unbecoming of the university's values. "Oh, my life is over," I whispered, tears finally spilling. "My parents, my education, my future, all gone in 4 seconds. Jackson took my phone and set it aside. "No, your old life is over. Your new one is just beginning." He hesitated, then added, "Come with me, on tour. We can say you're a new crew member while this blows over." "Why would you do that for me?" Jackson's eyes softened. "Because when you said I saved your life, I felt like someone finally saw me, the real me. Do you know how rare that is?" 3 days into the tour, I remained painfully aware that I was an intruder in Jackson's world. The tour bus was crowded with crew members who eyed me with curiosity or suspicion. That night, as rain pattered against the windows, I sat alone in the bus while everyone else slept. "Can't sleep either." Jackson's voice startled me. He padded barefoot into the space, hair tousled and wearing a faded t-shirt. "Too much on my mind," I admitted. Jackson settled beside me on the small couch, close enough that our knees touched. "I'm guessing you're into music too. I have something for you." He handed me a small leather-bound notebook. "Since you're always analyzing music," our fingers brushed during the exchange, lingering longer than necessary. Jackson's hand slowly moved to my wrist, his thumb tracing small circles that sent electricity up my arm. "Thank you," I whispered. "I meant what I said, you know," Jackson murmured, his voice low, "about seeing the real me. No one's ever read my lyrics the way you do." In the dim light of the bus, Jackson leaned forward, his forehead touching mine. We stayed that way for several heartbeats, sharing breath, hovering at the edge of something profound. Then, with gentle hesitation, he closed the distance between us. Just as I was trying to process the closeness between us, he gave me a small peck, leaving me surprised and caught in the moment. The peck didn't last long, but its effects lingered on my lips. I unintentionally touched my lip, feeling the way his lips felt soft on mine, even if it was just for a few seconds. When we pulled apart, Jackson's eyes searched mine, vulnerable in a way no camera had ever captured him. "We should, try to sleep," he finally said, but his hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my lower lip. "Yeah," I agreed, equally motionless, leaning slightly into his touch. When Jackson finally retreated to his bunk, he squeezed my hand once more, a silent promise that whatever was happening between us was just the beginning. "Tell me something nobody knows about you," Jackson said, It was nearly 2 a.m., the post-show adrenaline still too strong for sleep. I considered the request, watching our breath cloud in the night air. 3 weeks on tour had created a strange bubble around us. Not quite friends yet, definitely not just a fan and artist anymore, but something undefined. "I've never told anyone why I started my fan account," I finally said. Jackson turned to me, waiting. "It was 2 years ago," I continued. "My roommate, at the time, caught me, with another guy. He threatened to tell my parents unless I paid him to keep quiet. I didn't have the money." I stared at my hands. "I was sitting in my car that night, thinking about driving it into a wall, when Remnants came on the radio." Jackson inhaled sharply. "Your song," I continued, "hit me like someone had reached into my chest. I pulled over and listened to it on repeat for hours. By morning, I'd decided to start analyzing your music instead of the alternative." The silence between us filled with understanding. Jackson's fingers found mine in the darkness, a tentative touch. "Your turn," I finally said. "Tell me something nobody knows." Jackson leaned back, looking at the stars. "I haven't written a song that felt completely honest in over a year," he glanced at me. "Until I met you." "So, Milo seems nice," Jackson said as we sat in the tour bus lounge, everyone else asleep in their bunks. "How long have you two been roommates?" I smiled, thinking of my flamboyant, fearless friend. "Just since the school year. About 8 months. He seems to really have your back." "He does, which is—" I paused, searching for words. "It's still new to me, having someone in my space who's actually supportive." Jackson's expression became more attentive. "Bad experiences before?" I nodded, staring at my hands. "My freshman year roommate, Ryan. He's actually the one I was referring to earlier, the guy who caught me with someone and tried to blackmail." "Wait," Jackson frowned. "I thought Milo was—" No, I clarified quickly. "Milo came after everything fell apart with Ryan." I explained how housing moved me to a single room after the blackmail incident, but isolation worsened my depression. It wasn't until junior year that I'd connected with Milo through a music appreciation class. "Milo knows everything about me, about my family, sexuality, music, anxiety. He's been trying to get me to perform for months." I smiled ruefully. He'd be insufferably smug seeing me now. "We should call him," Jackson suggested. "Let him know you're okay." As Jackson handed me his phone, he asked about Ryan. "He sent an anonymous email to my dad, but a sympathetic intern intercepted it," I explained. That was my first brush with how dangerous it could be, being the son of someone so publicly homophobic. Jackson's hand found mine. "And now you're with one of the industry's most closely guarded secrets." Ironic, isn't it? From hiding from one roommate to finding safety with another, and now? "And now?" Jackson prompted softly. I met his gaze. "Now, I'm learning that maybe the right people are worth the risk." A thunderstorm in Nebraska forced the cancellation of Jackson's show and stranded the tour bus in a small town with one motel. I found myself sharing a room with Jackson Hayes, a scenario so far beyond my wildest dreams that it felt surreal. Rain lashed against the windows as we sat cross-legged on our respective beds, talking without interruption for the first time since the kiss. "My team wants me to go on a very public date with Eliza Chen next week," Jackson admitted, referring to the actress he'd briefly dated the previous year. "They think it will help control the narrative, make the kiss look like, I don't know, a performance art statement or something." I nodded, trying to hide my disappointment. "You should do it. It could save your career." "What about your songs?" Jackson asked, abruptly changing the subject. I blinked. "What? Your roommate told me you write music. When we called him to get you some clothes?" I flushed. "Milo talks too much." Play something for me. No way. I have stage fright, remember? I literally fainted in front of 18,000 people. Jackson laughed, the sound warming the room. It's just me. One person. That's how I got over my stage fright, you know? I'd pretend I was only playing for one person who really mattered. When I still hesitated, Jackson retrieved his guitar and handed it to me. Please? I've been reading your musical analysis for a year. I want to hear what you create. With trembling hands, I took the guitar. I closed my eyes, pretending I was alone in my dorm room, and began to play a song I'd written months ago, about unrequited love. After I finished playing my song, the silence between us hummed with unspoken emotions. That's beautiful, Jackson said after a long moment. You have a gift, Ben. I shook my head. It's just something I play for myself. It's not professional or anything. Some of the best songs aren't professional. They're honest. Jackson reached for his phone. Can I show you something? I recorded this the night after we met. I couldn't sleep. As the recording ended, Jackson set his phone aside and moved to sit beside me on my bed. The mattress dipped under his weight, bringing us closer together. That night, after the concert, I couldn't stop thinking about you, he confessed, his voice barely audible above the rain. About how you looked at me, like you knew me, actually knew me. His hand found mine, our fingers intertwining, my heart hammered against my ribs. Can I kiss you? He asked. In answer, I leaned forward, closing the distance between us. His lips were warm, tasting faintly of coffee and mint. When his hand slid to the back of my neck, I melted against him, all my anxieties temporarily silenced. The kiss deepened, his tongue sliding against mine as he gently guided me back against the pillows. The weight of him pressing me into the mattress felt like an anchor in a storm. I've been wanting to do that again since the stage, Jackson whispered against my neck, his breath hot on my skin. Me too, I admitted, running my fingers through his hair. Outside, lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the room and Jackson's face above mine. His eyes dark with desire, his expression open and unguarded. In that moment, he wasn't Jackson Hayes, the rock star. He was just Jackson, a man looking at me like I was something precious. I'm terrified, I said, tracing his jawline with my fingertips. Of what? Of waking up tomorrow and discovering this was just a dream. Jackson smiled, pressing a gentle kiss to my forehead, then my cheek, then my lips again. Then we'll just have to make tomorrow even better. Thunder crashed outside, but inside, something settled, a puzzle piece clicking into place. The staged date with Eliza Chen dominated entertainment news. I watched the footage from the tour bus, heart sinking as Jackson smiled for the cameras, his arm around his ex's waist. It was all for show. Jackson had promised me that, but the images still stung. What stung more was the call from my father. Benjamin! Senator Whitaker's voice was cold as ice. I'm offering you one chance to salvage your future and this family's reputation. Release a statement saying the kiss was non-consensual. Say he took advantage of you. You want me to destroy his career to save yours? I asked incredulously. I want you to fix the mess you've made, or I'll do it for you. I have friends at several networks who would be very interested in your therapy records. Depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. The public would easily believe you're mentally unstable and were manipulated by a predatory celebrity. The threat hung in the air like poison. I ended the call without answering, my mind racing. The next morning, headlines from a conservative news outlet blared. Senator's son suffered mental breakdown before controversial concert incident. They had published my private medical history. My father had actually done it. I made my decision then. I would disappear, remove myself from the equation. Jackson's career could recover from a strange concert incident with a random fan, but not from an ongoing scandal with the mentally unstable son of a powerful senator. I left my journal of songs and a note on Jackson's pillow while he was doing soundcheck for that night's arena show. By the time he read it, I would be on a bus to anywhere else. The Portland Greyhound station sat nearly empty at 3 a.m. I huddled on a bench, hoodie low, listening to a bootleg recording of Jackson's show from last night. His new song, Where Are You Now?, carried raw emotion even through the terrible audio. For 2 months, I'd drifted, washing dishes in Seattle, stocking shelves in Eugene, always moving to avoid Jackson's tour path, since I had nothing left. I'd abandoned my phone, bought a burner, cut all contact, safer for him this way. Still, I tracked his tour online from library computers. The damage control had been swift, Eliza Chen describing their wonderful date, the label issuing sanitized statements about artistic expression. The scandal was fading. Yet Jackson performed echo chambers at every show. The intercom announced my Boise bus would be delayed. I sighed, adjusting my backpack. You know, your handwriting is terrible. I froze, then turned to find Jackson standing 6 feet away in a baseball cap and glasses, looking exhausted yet hopeful. How did you... I stammered. Milo, he replied. He mentioned your grandfather's cabin near Portland. You shouldn't be here, I whispered. Your tour. Cancelled 3 shows. I've been looking for you for weeks. Why? I asked brokenly. Because I can't do this without you. I stood frozen, conflicted between the longing to run to him and the fear of what that would mean. Your career? Damn my career, Jackson interrupted, taking a step closer. These have been the worst 2 months of my life. The music feels empty. The shows are just emotions. Nothing feels real without you there. The station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows, but couldn't dim the intensity in his eyes. Jackson, my father will destroy you. He's already trying. Let him try. Another step closer. I'm nobody, just a fan who... You're everything. He was close enough now that I could see the stubble on his jaw, the shadows under his eyes. The person who sees me, the voice I hear when I write, the reason I finally feel brave enough to be honest. His hands came up to frame my face, his touch so gentle it made my eyes sting with tears. I love you, Ben. I love your mind, your music, your courage. I love the way you analyze chord progressions in the little crease between your eyebrows when you concentrate. The words hit me like a physical force. Jackson Hayes loved me. It seemed impossible, yet his eyes held nothing but truth. I love you too, I whispered, the words feeling inadequate for the magnitude of what I felt. His kiss was different this time, not hesitant like on the tour bus, not desperate like during the storm. The kiss felt like coming home. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me against his chest as if he could fuse us together, prevent any future separation. When we finally broke apart, breathless, Jackson pressed his forehead to mine. Come back, please. We'll figure everything out together. What about your tour? The label? Eliza? I'm cancelling the fake dating. I'm considering leaving the label. His thumbs brushed away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I don't want to be their puppet anymore. That's a lot of risk, I said, though my heart soared at his words. Not compared to losing you. His smile was soft, intimate. Besides, I have this incredible songwriter I want to collaborate with. He's a bit of a perfectionist, analyzes every note, but his music... Jackson kissed me again, briefly. His music makes me feel alive. That night, in the privacy of Jackson's hotel room, we reconnected in ways that went beyond physical. Each touch was a promise, each kiss an affirmation. When Jackson's lips traced a path down my chest, his whispered, I miss you, against my skin felt like absolution. And later, as we moved together, finding a rhythm as natural as the music we both loved, the sensation of completeness overwhelmed me. Afterwards, tangled in sheets and each other, I traced lazy patterns on Jackson's chest. Will you come back on tour with me? he asked. Yes, I replied without hesitation. And will you perform with me? Your songs deserve to be heard. The old fear flickered briefly, but when I looked into his eyes, I found courage. With you beside me, I think I can do anything. His smile illuminated the darkness, brighter than any stage light. We're gonna change everything, he promised, pulling me closer. We already have, I whispered back. The arena was packed, 20,000 fans holding their breath as Jackson Hayes stood alone on stage, bathed in a single spotlight. According to the rumor mill, tonight was the night he would introduce Eliza Chen as his girlfriend and laugh off the misunderstanding with the senator's son. I've been in this industry for 6 years, Jackson began, his voice echoing through the massive space. And for 6 years, I've been living in an echo chamber of my own making, saying what I'm supposed to say, dating who I'm supposed to date, writing what I'm supposed to write. The crowd murmured in confusion. A few time ago, someone very special left me a journal full of songs that put mine to shame, and a goodbye note. Jackson's voice cracked. He thought he was protecting me by disappearing. But the truth is, I've been disappearing little by little every day I've lived this lie. The arena lights dimmed further, until only Jackson remained visible. Security is about to escort someone to this stage. Not my girlfriend, not a publicity stunt. The truth. A hooded figure was led through the darkness to center stage. Hesitantly, I stood beside Jackson, face hidden. This is the most terrifying thing I've ever done, Jackson continued. And I'm not doing it alone. He strummed his guitar, playing the opening notes of a song no one had heard before. This is called Echoes of Courage. We wrote it together. I slowly lowered my hood, revealing my pale, terrified face. The crowd gasped in recognition. Jackson nodded encouragingly, and I stepped up to the microphone. My voice shook on the first line, but gained strength with each word. It was a song about finding bravery in the most unexpected places, about voices echoing back to each other across impossible distances. Thanks to Jackson, while being on the tour bus with him, he transformed me for good. Small jamming sessions, him adoring me while I sang only for him encouraging me for my music and helping me to get over my stage fear in all ways possible. As we sang the chorus together, the giant screens above the stage displayed a document, Jackson's termination papers from his label, signed that morning. I'm starting my own label, Jackson announced during an instrumental break, where artists can be themselves, without fear or judgment. And the first artist I'm signing, he looked at me with such tenderness that the audience collectively held its breath, is the most authentic voice I've ever heard. We finished the song, with our foreheads pressed together, sharing one microphone, 2 voices becoming one. The arena erupted in deafening applause. You don't have to do this, Jackson said, adjusting my collar backstage at the Pride Festival. Your music speaks for itself now. You don't owe anyone a public appearance. I smiled, no longer the terrified fanboy who had fainted on stage. A year of performing, first for Jackson alone, then for small crowds, then for larger ones, had transformed me. The stage fright wasn't gone, but I had learned to channel it into energy rather than fear. I want to do this, I replied. For that kid out there who's still living in an echo chamber, who needs to know it gets better. A hesitant throat clearing interrupted us. We turned to find Senator Whitaker standing awkwardly in the doorway of the green room, looking smaller somehow in casual clothes instead of his usual suit. Your mother said I might find you here, he said to me. I lost the election. I know, I replied neutrally. My father shifted uncomfortably. Turns out, voters prefer authenticity over whatever I was selling. He paused. I heard your album. It's really good, son. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. I nodded, not quite ready for more, but no longer consumed by anger either. Maybe we could get coffee sometime, my father offered. I'd like to meet the real you. I'd like that, I said softly. After my father left, Jackson squeezed my hand. You okay? I nodded. Better than okay. Ready. We walked onto the stage, hand in hand, greeted by a roar from the crowd. Our new home in the mountains, complete with a state-of-the-art recording studio, awaited our return. A sanctuary where we could create without pressure, but for now, we belonged to this moment. As the opening chords of Echoes of Courage filled the air, I took the lead vocals, my voice strong and clear. Jackson stood slightly behind me, watching with undisguised pride and love as I commanded the stage that had once terrified me. For the first chorus, we shared the microphone, fingers intertwined, no longer afraid of the echo our voices created together, an echo powerful enough to break through any chamber built to contain it. The mountain's sunrise painted our bedroom in gold as I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Jackson. Today marked 5 years since that fateful kiss, and I had a surprise planned. In our home studio, I put the finishing touches on 4 Seconds, the title track of my 3rd album, a reflection of how a single moment can change everything. My debut album, Echo of Courage, had won 3 Grammys, but this one felt more personal, chronicling our journey from that viral moment to now. I found Milo's text confirming he'd arrived that afternoon for our anniversary celebration. His drag career had exploded internationally, but he never missed our important moments. He'd been right all along about my talent, though he never lets me forget it. The Haze Whisperer, revealed to be Jackson's cousin Jamie, was arriving too. She'd become our A&R director at Authentic Records, the label that now housed 15 artists who could create freely without hiding who they were. I smiled at the framed magazine covers on the wall, music's most revolutionary power couple, alongside a photo of Jackson and me at our wedding last year. We'd waited until after my mother's health improved. Her reconciliation had been slower, but ultimately deeper than my father's. Ryan, my former blackmailing roommate, had, ironically, helped our cause. After Jackson and I went public, he tried selling his story to tabloids, but his obvious homophobia backfired spectacularly in the court of public opinion. Last I heard, he was working at his father's insurance company in Ohio. Bergman University had quietly reinstated my scholarship and degree after our foundation donated a substantial sum for LGBTQ+ student housing. The same dean who'd expelled me now headed the diversity committee. Jackson padded into the studio, wrapping his arms around me from behind. 5 years. Can you believe it? Sometimes I still think I'll wake up and find it was all a dream, I admitted. Then I'll keep making every day better than the one before, he promised, echoing words from that stormy night in Nebraska. My stage fright had transformed into manageable performance anxiety. In therapy, I'd learned it stemmed from fear of disappointing my father, a wound now healing through honest conversations over coffee that had gradually evolved into genuine acceptance. As we prepared for the intimate gathering of those who'd supported us through everything, I reflected on how our echo had grown. Thousands of young people had written to tell us how our story gave them the courage to be themselves. "What are you thinking about?" Jackson asked, noticing my contemplative mood. "About how sometimes the worst moment of your life becomes the doorway to everything you never dared dream of," I replied, thinking of that terrified college student who fainted on stage. Later that night, surrounded by friends and family, both biological and chosen, Jackson and I performed 4 Seconds for the first time. The lyrics celebrated not just our love story, but the ripple effect of authenticity, how being true to yourself creates space for others to do the same. As the final note faded, I no longer counted seconds in heartbeats of anxiety, but in moments of joy that stretched into forever. The end. Which rock star would you like to be kissed by? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome,